the Fueled by Death guest.
Let's start this off timidly, and we'll work up to a fever pitch. How's that?
Can we start to where I first met Brad?
Yeah, what I want to kind of get out of the open is that we love doing these episodes where we get to highlight the employees of Death Wish because we always get a new perspective from everybody who works here, and we're going to get into that. But one of the interesting things about you, Brad, is that both myself and Dustin have known you outside of work and before working here. In fact, D-Man, you've known Brad the longest.
Yeah, probably.
So,
is it 16 years?
16
Somewhere
or 17.
around there.
Yeah,
Wow.
16, 17.
Wow. So let's start there. Let's start where you guys became friends.
Okay, first band, and it was like 3 high school kids, all right? I play guitar already, so Dustin, you pick up the bass, and Kevin, you pick up the drums, and we just start playing music. It's awful. I'm sure it was terrible. And we're learning.
Give me the band name.
Oh man. So it started out as
Eye of the World? Was that the first one?
Yeah, Eye of the World.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways,
Not a Grateful Dead reference, by the way.
we start learning cover songs, and we quickly find out that Justin is very, very inadequate at guitar and cannot play guitar solos at the moment. And we get to the point where it's like, oh, we need a lead guitarist. And we find out that Brad here plays lead guitar. So we have him come in, and we play Enter Sandman, and he rips in with the Enter Sandman solo perfectly. Note to note, like perfectly. On top of that, I think at that point you knew the whole first System of a Down album.
Yeah, I knew
Front to back
enough
as well.
of it. I knew enough of it.
Which was insane. It was like,
And a bunch of the second.
Yeah.
I knew way too much System of a Down. It was a mess.
who is this kid? Who is he? He came in like magic and has shredded.
Give me an age. What age was this?
I was 16. Brad was 14.
I think I was 14.
Wow. So babies.
Yeah, we were children.
Little babbies.
Little
It
children.
was awesome.
Yeah.
So you're a 14-year-old kid who knows basically front and back the first System of a Down record.
Yeah, I knew a bunch of stuff.
Okay, dive into that. Why did you pick up the guitar? You're 14 years old. When did you pick up the guitar?
I was 11 when I started playing guitar.
Why?
It was super weird. Like, I had recently moved to the area, and I fell in with a kid named Larry Ball, old friend of mine.
Okay.
And he found out that I was just listening to like pop music on the radio, and
What most 11-year-olds do.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
No idea. I mean, like
yeah.
my dad was into the Beatles and Zappa and
Yeah.
stuff. My mom wouldn't let him show us Zappa because that's inappropriate for
That
kids.
was pretty inappropriate for
totally.
children.
My mom was not down with that. But basically, Larry found out what I was listening to, and he was like, "Oh, you know what you should be listening to is Metallica." And that was his thing. He was like, "I'm going to put you through Metallica rehab." And when we were 11, he just like bombarded me with like the first 5 Metallica albums for like months until I knew all the words of all the songs. And then when we got super pumped about it, he was like, "We should start a band. You should play bass." And
After you've been playing on guitar? Or
no,
oh,
I
this
hadn't
is
done
before.
anything. Yeah,
Oh,
we were
okay.
just talking, and he was like, "You should play bass." And I went home, and I realized that my father had like 3 guitars he didn't know how to play, and we had no basses. And my dad was like, "Well, I've always wanted to learn how to play, so why don't we learn together?" And he had like a full-size acoustic, and he had a classical, and he had a tiny little acoustic. And since I was still a tiny little guy, because I was like 11, I learned how to play on that little one. And then as I got bigger, I just played bigger ones, and we learned a bunch of songs together. And then as soon as I could, I started using the internet to find Metallica guitar tabs and just learn as many Metallica songs as humanly possible.
Crazy.
Meticulously, by the way.
Yeah,
like
a
every
lot of
note perfectly. I mean, that's the way. That's why I've always loved Brad. He's meticulous and thorough, and when we first played together, he impressed me, and then when we had Skeletons in the piano,
Yeah.
and I learned Brad was coming home. It was like, no duh, we need a lead guitarist. We need Brad. He needs to shred in my life again.
Right.
And then when we came here at Death Wish and started a logistics team, and it was like, we need somebody to shred here.
Yeah.
And it was time to bring in Brad again. He's like in Quentin Tarantino movie.
Okay. Which
Pulp
one?
Fiction.
Okay.
The Wolf.
Oh. Oh, wow.
Damn.
That's a really good.
What a compliment.
Yeah, wow. I think you could clock out for the day on that one, right?
I'm going home.
Damn.
It's not getting any better after that.
It was just, when you need shit done and you need it done meticulously and you need somebody to intelligently break, something down, Brad's the dude to call.
Yeah. It's funny. I'll bookend this. Like when I met you, Brad, like you mentioned, Dustin, we were in a band called Skeletons of the Piano, and I'll actually sink a little of that in there because we have the wonderful opportunity of owning the rights to that music, so I can actually put it in this episode. But we were just a normal band, well, outside of having me, the electric violinist, but, drums, bass, guitar, and singing. But we were growing, and we decided that we wanted to have the ability to have two guitars, so one person could take a lead. And immediately, in practice, Dustin, you go, well, I know the perfect guy, but he lives in freaking Massachusetts, because you were in Massachusetts at the time.
Yep.
And serendipity in life happened, and you ended up moving back to the area. And
I called you immediately.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Like I remember telling our friend Barney, like the day I decided, I talked to him and I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna move back to New York. And literally like the next morning, Dustin called me at like 8 a.m. or something. He was like, hey man, how's it going? I heard you coming back. And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about moving in a couple weeks. He was like, cool, you want to try out for a band?
Yeah, immediately.
Like, sure.
Yeah. And
then you got sucked up into the storm that was Skeletons in the Piano.
Yeah, which was crazy. We
That was
it's
a hell of a time.
It's
Yeah.
funny, for fans of this show that listen to Dustin and I talk to a lot of the different musicians. We bring up being musicians a lot,
Yeah.
and a large part of our life was this band. It was probably for both of us, maybe not, but the last big time that we were in a band where we really were going for it. We were really and we were close. I mean, I think we brought out some good records, and they were definitely better when you joined up, which was great. But you also said, you're looking for the wolf, and we brought the wolf to Death Wish Coffee. But one of the best things about this show and talking to employees is always learning that it's not always the job you think you're going to get or the job that you were prepared for when you were hired. So before you started working here, you're just coming up on your year. Like in the spring, you're going to be here for a full year.
Yeah, April, I think.
Before you started working here, what were you doing for a job to put food on your table?
I've done a lot of weird, odd jobs, but the thing I did right before this was I worked for a lumber and building material company, and I drove a truck and delivered lumber, doors, windows, all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah. And, I mean, so that gives you some driving experience. You obviously were working in a warehouse with a forklift, so you had a little bit of experience on that. But when you were brought on to help our new warehouse become a better, well-oiled machine. Because even when I started, which was just before when you started, our inventory was still this haphazard type of thing that unfortunately was just shoved onto Dustin's lap a lot.
Yeah. I felt so bad for you, dude. You had so much on your plate, and you were trying to keep track of our inventory on a spreadsheet from like handwritten reports of the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it got to the point where it's like I knew what to do to get things in line. We needed to integrate that new system,
Right.
which barcoded everything and automated everything within our warehouse systems. But I only had so much time because at the same time, I'm purchasing everything for the company. I'm working with all the vendors. I'm controlling all of our inventories across all of our warehouses everywhere in the States, in Europe, in Canada. And it was it was too much. I did not have the time to be able to integrate the system, and I don't trust many people to integrate a system like this because it's pretty complicated. I mean, in fact, I think it may have been way too much for me to bite off at that time. I would have had to dedicate myself full time into this program. So it made easy sense when bringing Brad in to have him tackle this project.
Because not only did you have some warehouse experience, but correct me if I'm wrong, you have computer experience as well.
I have some, yeah.
So at least you knew your way around.
Yeah,
I'm
not a stranger to computers. I'm no expert, but I know how to use Excel. I know how to use.
Right.
I can do some rudimentary programming and stuff. So.
Well, I feel like there's a certain amount of skill sets that no matter what you do, you're going to be useful.
Right.
And
I agree with that.
Some of those skill sets are things that we all have here sitting at this table.
Mm-hmm.
And it's attention to detail, it's thoroughness, it's meticulousness, and it's the fact that failure's not an option, right? I may not know how to do this, but I'm not an idiot and I can figure it out. And I will sit here until I do. And those are the qualities I look for in working with somebody and knowing that it's going to be an easy job, because that even if they don't know how to do the job, if they're meticulous and careful enough, it'll get done one way or the other.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So, Brad, talk a little bit about what it was like when you first started at the company, like what your job role was then and like what it has actually turned into now and what you do for Death Wish Coffee.
Let's see. I was basically hired for part of the reason that Dustin had said, and also at the time we had another shipping and receiving guy named Jason who, as we were growing and starting to send out more product to more areas, it started to become like a little too much of a job for one guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was brought in to learn how to do shipping and receiving from him and help him with that work, and two, work on this inventory system, which Dustin just didn't have the time for. So for the first couple months, I was working really hard on trying to, take everything in our warehouse, count it, make sure that I know in a computer exactly where it is, while also trying to learn, because we ship to a lot of different places and we use UPS, FedEx. We use multiple different logistics companies for full and partial truckloads.
Right.
We go to Amazon. It's a lot. So
Yeah,
I
all
had
the retail deals and everything.
just so much. I had to take a lot of notes and kind of like make myself, because Eric had a cheat sheet for like one way to ship things, like the Amazon Fresh. He had a cheat sheet and it was so good, and I used it every time. And so I just ended up making myself like a ton of cheat sheets so that I wouldn't have to ask too many questions over and over. And Jason ended up leaving, and I had to kind of deal with all this on my own as we were ramping up, which led to a lot of hours.
Yeah.
But we recently got the other Brad Gabbro, to come in and help with that, and he's been a huge help. And since then, I don't know, I've been doing that.
Do you feel the company has grown since you've started?
Yeah.
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 Like even just from a sense of like truck shipments in and out kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I got here, the entire concept of a full truck of coffee was kind of new. Up until that point, it was like a few pallets on a truck, partial truckloads.
Yeah, literally, when I was shipping, it was 3 pallets, 4 pallets once a week, and the rest was UPS.
Sometimes UPSing stuff.
And
Wow.
now, what are we shipping?
1 or 2 full trucks to Pennsylvania a week, usually.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
and
I have
that's
to-
and a truckload is 24 pallets.
24 pallets.
So we went from 3 pallets a week to almost 48 pallets a week.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a huge
Yeah,
growth.
like
That's a
19,000 pounds
Giant
of coffee
growth.
per truck.
Yeah.
So, and that definitely has become, I'm not going to necessarily say easier, but better to deal with because of the systems that you now run and have in place.
Yeah, it's easier to keep track of our inventory for various reasons, but it's just easier to know like what we have on hand. Like prior to this, we would just get in a bunch of green coffee and we'd get in a bunch of bags, and Dustin would try and keep track of how many of each thing we have, and then suddenly we have coffee, and there was no like the paper trail was kind of thin. So I was able to use this software that I believe you probably are the one who originally found
Yeah.
the top shelf software,
Yeah.
but I was able to use that to kind of now we have like a full paper trail of green coffee comes in. We bring it to Dave and Anthony. They roast it. It turns into roasted coffee. It gets bagged in these places. It gets shipped out. It, all that. So that's been really helpful in trying to
And on top of that,
organize
like I felt like one thing that we ran into a lot. It's like, where's the blah blah blah? And it's like, it's here. I have no idea where it is because
Right.
everybody's moving things around in the warehouse, and I'm not in the warehouse myself.
Right.
But this program can do enough where it's, okay, let me punch in the thing that we're looking for, and it lets you know exactly where it is within the warehouse, which is...
Yeah, with like 99% accuracy, unless
Yeah.
someone just grabbed it and took it, which doesn't happen often, but
Yeah.
it
Right.
happens.
And it's hard to keep control of the warehouse when you don't have somebody in there watching over it, taking care of everything, taking care of the systems, making sure, everybody's not haphazardly moving things around and whatnot.
Yeah. Stupid technical difficulties. Don't worry about the man behind the curtain back there, people. I'll try to get that graphic back up, but it's just our own graphic. But I almost got it. There it is. So, do you think where do you see us in this year and beyond as we grow, as we are now looking towards much more of a retail kind of scenario with much more of a push on that end? Growing out of just being an e-commerce company, do you see what you're dealing with becoming harder, becoming like how do you feel like what does the future hold for Brad?
The future holds some great stuff for the Brads because,
Brads.
as I have mentioned, I now have a partner in crime who actually shares my name. So, yeah,
There's been no nicknames really.
No, we
handed out.
totally sidestepped it. Like there was discussion. Oh, we're gonna have a new Brad. When are you gonna have a name? And we're just like, nope.
It's just the Brads.
We're
now.
both Brad. Deal
or
with
or
it.
multiple Brad.
Yeah, it's been working
which
out
is
for
also
months. He's been here
acceptable.
for probably 5 months now, and it's been going well. But it's kind of nice because as you move more into purchasing and move away from the inventory, and since we've gotten Brad, some of your jobs have gone onto my plate. Some of Eric's like retail jobs have gone onto my plate. Some of the ordering jobs, and it's kind of nice because as we grow as a company, our logistics team is also growing, and Brad's becoming more competent all the time, and I'm learning new things. So I don't really. I mean, obviously, I see my job changing. I'm seeing it change. Every couple weeks, there's like a new thing that people kind of want me and Brad to handle, and we're figuring out how to divvy that up. But honestly, I think right now I see a lot of growth, and I think that we are fully capable of handling it and growing into it.
That's awesome to hear.
We are fully capable.
To back that up a little bit, I think 2018 will see a lot more growth starting.
Yeah.
And I think in 2019, we'll have a full-blown logistics team to handle such a thing.
And hopefully in 2019, if you haven't heard us talk on previous podcasts, we will be hopefully moving into a brand new facility as well. And that will help logistics because we just moved into this warehouse that we're in from a smaller warehouse, and we're already at the point where we're almost outgrowing it.
Yeah.
And it's a warehouse that's not necessarily tailored to our needs. Like I know as someone who deals with trucks day in and day out, something that you probably never even think about because I don't either. I don't work in this is like
Loading docks.
A loading dock is so important.
I would love a loading
and
dock.
we don't have that.
And the biggest reason why, just to explain to people who are wondering why, is because when you take things out of a truck, you take it out with a forklift.
Right.
And the loading dock makes it so you can drive the forklift onto the truck
Right onto the
and just
truck.
take it right out of the truck and drop it in your warehouse. Now what we have to do is put a pallet jack onto the truck, drag each pallet to the end of the truck, pick it up with the forklift, and then drop it on the warehouse.
Which, I mean, when you have the manpower to do it, obviously it gets done, but, all those minutes add up to time that we'll be able to get back when we have a loading dock. And
Well, logistics is weird, right? Because you're dealing with a company now that has millions of orders a year, right? So with logistics, let's say you have a box that you're putting your main product in, and that box takes 15 seconds to assemble. Doesn't seem like much, but if you're doing it 600,000 times
or a million times,
a million times, it gets to be a giant thing, and it doesn't take much to take that 15-second step and turn it into a 1-second step just by a little bit of logistical thought. And it's really cool. My mind has always worked this way, and I think that it goes the same with Brad, where it's like you want to look at the small stuff and know it adds up to big stuff and figure out solutions to the issues.
Yeah, that's
or it's more like, I'm not saying that it's issues, it's puzzles. There are no problems, there are puzzles in life.
It's crazy to me, and I've talked about this before, not ever working in a job like this and then seeing not only what goes into, the logistics side of running a company, but also the coffee itself. Like, I've said this multiple times where before I started working here, all I knew about coffee is I pour it into my machine and I hit that button that says brew, and then I magically have this delicious cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I had no idea that all of everything that happens outside these doors actually happens. You specifically, Brad, were you a coffee fan before you started working at Deathwish?
I drank a lot of coffee. I've been drinking a lot of coffee since like high school. Tons of it.
And normally I would ask this question, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer because we are such good friends. But when and how did you hear about Deathwish initially?
The when and how I heard about Deathwish was 2012, probably late 2012, I think, because the band we were in, Skeletons and the Piano, also featured Eric Donovan, the drummer, and he had, what was he, packing parachutes before that, I think?
He was packing parachutes.
He was packing parachutes, which sounds like a very high-stress job.
Yeah.
And,
Whoops.
he started working for Mike. I'm sure some people know this story, but he started
Go
working
back to
for Mike
episode 2 of this show,
in the basement of the warehouse or the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And I remember he kind of mentioned to like everybody in the band that they needed help, and if anyone knew anyone looking for a job, like they might need it, they could use the help, because I think it was right before Good Morning America.
Yeah.
And
it was literally like Mike and John and Eric in that basement.
Yeah, and a couple other people who aren't with us anymore.
Right.
But I remember when he offered it up to us, we all like had full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And Kane didn't. Kane moved in, but then I remember one day I actually went and worked in that basement with them.
Which is incredible. You have...
I didn't know that.
You have this window into this company that very, very few people have.
Yeah, it was super weird because Eric had kind of said like, oh, if you guys want some extra work, and there was one week when I didn't have a whole lot to do, and I was like, hey man, if you need any help. And he was like, why don't you come in at like right after work this day? So I showed up at like 4:30. I think I worked until midnight. I went down to the basement. At that point, there were like 20-pound sacks of coffee roasted, just tons of them. And my whole job for those like 7 hours was just to weigh out 1.04 pounds. Just put a bag on a scale, 1.04. And then if I was told to grind it, I just poured it into a grinder, and Kane hit the grind button and sealed it. And if I was told not to grind it, I sealed it. It was like a hand. It was almost like a paper cutter, just like a chunk like sealer, and we were just doing that.
Thing. Yeah, I had to use that for
awesome
a while.
for like one night.
Is it crazy? Even though you did it for one night, you saw the operation of Deathwish Coffee in that instance, the birth of this company. Is it crazy to think about I'm pouring this in a bag and sealing it, and then now seeing where the company is?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because I mean we all I'm newer and Jeff's a bit newer to the company, but we all kind of like got to watch it grow from the outside the whole time too.
Yeah.
Like I remember, from being in a basement with Kane, like bagging those the coffee. I remember there was a long time, because we all have played music with Kane too. There was a long time when I would go over to his house to record music, and he would literally just have like a trash bag full of K-cups that they had just made, and he would have like a roll of stickers, and he would just sit there and put a sticker on, put it all in a box to package the next day. And he would just like hit record. I'd play some music. He'd just like hours of just like taking the K-cups home to put the stickers on the top of. And
so it's safe to say that some of the first orders of K-cups from Deathwish Coffee also were packed with a little rock and roll.
A lot of rock and roll.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fun. Actually, it's kind of weird. we're talking about it a lot, but when you really think about it, it's kind of weird how much this company is built on rock and roll.
Yeah.
I mean, you, me,
Yep.
Brad,
Eric,
Kane.
Kane.
Like even Taya.
Yeah.
We knew from, especially from Skeletons in the Piano.
Yeah.
She was at every show.
Yep.
It's so crazy. The foundation of Death Wish Coffee is built upon rock and roll.
Coffee and rock and roll go hand in hand for sure.
Now they do.
But we've talked about that with so many different musicians.
You don't really see Folgers and guitar solos.
No, you don't. But I mean, we definitely champion that because of our image and that kind of stuff. But I mean, just the ability of having this magic potion to help you after a long night of rocking, if you've been up all night, living that rock star life. You guys all know what I'm talking about. Or
wait, are you talking about cocaine?
yes. or the other side of that is we talk to a lot of rock stars now who are older in age and have been there, done that. Zakk Wylde included, who does not drink anymore at all, and as soon as gave up the drinking, was like, you know what? I'm going to replace that with coffee. A lot of people do that, and because it still gives you that upper, which is great.
Yeah.
And so I think they definitely go hand in hand, but it doesn't hurt to have some black and white and red and skull and crossbones in the mix too.
Yeah. The skull and crossbones definitely helps that, but it's really cool to think we have that rock and roll attitude, but it's not gimmicky.
Right.
It's not just a thing. We use skull and crossbones, so we got to be rock and roll. It's like, no, it just kind of happens that we use the skull and crossbones and that we're all about rock and roll music. It's just kind of a cool thing.
So speaking on music, and we've touched on this a little bit, Brad, I want to know what kind of music are you into now? Because you're a guitarist. You got it. You told us you got in because your buddy showed you Metallica, and you're like, I'm gonna pick up the guitar. I'm gonna start doing that kind of stuff.
Fish.
But what kind of music? What kind of music are you into now?
So much of it.
You've gotten me personally into a lot of music I never liked before.
Dude, that's a hard question because it's just, I don't know. At my last job I basically was a truck driver, and I had like 40 hours plus a week of just driving around completely unsupervised in a truck with a CD player.
Uh-huh.
And I spent like 5 years just burning like anything you could imagine. Just like people kept telling me hip hop's great, and I was never into it when I was a kid. So I'd be like, all right, well, I'm going to, get some Wu-Tang or like Lauryn Hill or something. And then it's like, oh, that's great. And then, I had been, as Dustin mentioned it, and I still have trouble coping with this. I'd been super down on Fish for like since high school. I would just make fun of people for that jammy crap, and then I decided to give them a chance, and now I love Fish like a lot.
I'm not gonna judge you for it. I'm not. Some of our fans might.
I'm gonna judge you.
D-Man's gonna.
Earlier I was listening to Zappa. I was subjecting Brad to a whole bunch of Zappa.
You are a big Frank Zappa
this morning.
fan.
Yeah, I do love me some Zappa, but I don't know, man. I can't listen to anything like too much. Like I can listen to some death metal. I couldn't do a whole day of death metal, but like I can do an hour of death metal in the middle of like a day of jam music and hip hop and like, I don't know, just whatever I feel like. I'm trying to listen to everything.
You have a very eclectic taste, and actually, I want to bring up that one of your favorite bands is a band called Murder by Death, and you are the exact reason why we had the singer of that band on this very show. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no worries, man. It was a pleasure to go down, give him some coffee, and actually watch it follow through to him being on here.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure to watch that episode.
It doesn't always happen, right?
Yeah.
We stick a lot of antennas out there, and we don't get a lot a reception all the time. But
right.
That was one of the cool ones.
And
that
he's a
really
super busy
together.
guy.
Yeah.
So I was a little, I was wondering if it was going to happen, and it did.
It did.
You know what? I think if super busy people need anything, it's the strongest coffee.
It's true.
Period.
It's true.
So I'm sure he was like, yeah, I'll take a half an hour of my time, but I'll probably get an extra week of work in this week because I drank crazy coffee.
So we touched upon, your childhood, going into music, and then, some of the jobs that you've had and coming to Death Wish, and how your job from day one until now has changed, grown, and you've learned all these different things you never knew before, obviously. The question that we always ask, Brad, what fuels you to continue to put your time in at a job like this?
You know, this has been like kind of a weird thing for me to think about for the last few years of my life, but I think the thing that keeps me happy and keeps me motivated more than anything else, I've found to be like a sense of community, like more than any other thing. Because I've had periods in my life with like a ton of community. Like when I was in college, I had friends everywhere. We like lived in a small village of just a lot of people I loved. And then like in the Skeletons days, you know, we were all really close to each other, having multiple practices a week. And
brothers.
Yeah, I found that basically whenever my sense of being a part of community starts to dwindle, whenever the people I love and enjoy being with become harder to interact with, I start to lose motivation and I start to get depressed, and it's harder to like wake up in the morning and continue to like want to, you know, do the best I can.
Right.
And since coming here, like, it's just been great because literally like pretty much all of my best friends are here all the time. I get to work. Eric Donovan, one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life, is my boss.
It's pretty rad.
It's amazing. I get to work in a department with Dustin. I get to work through that wall from this guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The production crew is great. The office crew is great. Just like everybody. I just feel like I'm on this team with everybody. And they're not just my coworkers, but a lot of them are my friends too. And it's really easy to like want to achieve things when you just get to see people you love all the time. And even when I'm like having a hard day, I remember early when we were trying to integrate the system, you were trying to set up this whole thing at the same time. And I remember being through the wall, like trying to set up a printer forever, and you were trying to set up like part of this forever. And every time I would get super frustrated, I'd just walk in here and you'd be like, yeah, me too, man. And we just like, we could just bond. And then like when my stuff started working, Jeff was like, hooray. And
we literally figured it out at the same time.
Yeah,
we
pretty
ran out the door and high-fived each other.
Yeah,
like,
it was amazing. We were like,
works.
we did it. It was like a week of madness, but we figured it out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
you're right.
Yeah, it's great.
It is a sense of community in Death Wish, and we get that. I've heard that a lot from the people who work here, and I feel it the same, the same way.
Agreed.
Actually, speaking on community, and I kind of wanted to talk about, we talked about your love of music. We've talked about, obviously, what you do for a living, because you work here. But, everybody has stuff that they do when they're not working. And one of the things I want to talk about is some of the stuff that you love to do. And you've brought a sense of community, actually, to this workspace without even thinking about it. You really have.
We both got it at the same time. It's
because something you like to do is play games. And one of those is Magic, right?
I love Magic the Gathering.
It's crazy how much of a thing it is here now.
It really is a thing.
Where you've actually carved out a corner of this warehouse, and it is the designated Magic area, which, a lot of the crew participates in, which is really cool.
So how many people now participate in playing Magic now?
There are 6 of us. I believe there were 7 before Joe left, but there were 6 of us because Brad, the other Brad, has been playing Magic for years.
Yep.
And I have been playing Magic for years. And like literally all it took was him getting hired and like coming in on like his 3rd day and being like, so when are we going to play Magic? And I was like,
right now.
I guess tomorrow on lunch, bring some cards. And a couple, we have a lot of video gamers in production, a lot of people who are into, fantasy and games in general who were just immediately interested. We're like, oh, I've heard about this game, but I don't really know much about it. Can you teach us? And I was like, all right, I'll figure that out. So I bought a bunch of cards and made a bunch of beginner decks to like try and teach people. And now we got a crew.
Not only do you have a crew, talk a little bit about this. You guys are going to start competing, correct?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, Brad used to compete a lot back in like 2012, I think he said.
Yeah.
But I've never been a competitive player.
I was competing back in 2001.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Back in the old days.
We used to have to go to
pre-Mirrodin.
Yeah, we used to have to go to Canada for tournaments.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started playing when I was a kid, and then stopped, and then started playing with some friends in college, and then stopped, and then started again. So it's always been like a casual kitchen table event for me. But Brad's pretty serious.
Yeah.
And that was really all I needed to start like building competitive decks. And now we go to local tournament, like local game nights at game stores, which are like small, 20-person tournaments. Mm-hmm. But they have bigger regional tournaments. And there's one in March in Worcester, Massachusetts that Brad and I are totally going to go attend.
That's excellent. And hopefully we gotta figure out the exact way to do the logistics of it.
Hey!
But I want to get some footage of you guys playing on the road to this to actually a big time competition. And if you guys don't know, we're going to start really going hard again on the video game aspect with Death Wish Coffee on Twitch, which is that whole community of people who do that. But they also do a lot with board games and Magic cards and that kind of stuff. So we're gonna stream some live games of you guys prepping for this, and then maybe even follow you to some competitions. I think it's great because like you said it with community, and like this workspace has a real sense of community. Not only just the people who work here, but the people who enjoy Death Wish Coffee, the Death Wish Coffee community at large. You feel like you're part of this bigger thing. But to see you kind of come on, and then, like you said, Brad come in, the other Brad come in too, and we went from 0 Magic card players to 6 with dreams of professional competition. I think that's pretty rad. That's like, it's really, it's a magical place to work.
Who's the best Magic player here?
Brad.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you talking about yourself in third person?
No, Brad's better than I am.
Really?
Brad's really good. Yeah.
No shit.
Well, I mean, we have very different skill sets when it comes to Magic, because there are different styles and different preferred styles of play and of deck building. But I would say, I think Brad's definitely a better player than I am.
The other thing
I feel better about kicking his ass the other.
He's a really tight player.
Yeah. And that's funny.
The other thing I wanted to bring up that I know you enjoy, because like I said, we're all friends, known each other for a while. You love, to play Magic. You like video games. You love to read books. You're very well read.
Yeah.
But it's been sitting on this table the whole time because it's your coffee cup. You love Rubik's Cubes as well.
Wait, do you have one out on the table? Out there?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
You want to do it now?
Yeah, no, it's going to happen.
I mean, we can. Why? I'm always fascinated by people who are drawn to that kind of thing. Like, famously, Will Smith, loves playing with those. And there are people who... We have a local guy who's, a Rubik's Cube magician.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome.
He was on America's Got Talent, I think he was, right? What was his name?
Steve Brundage.
Steve Brundage, that's right.
He's not only awesome at solving Rubik's Cube, he's also awesome at general, sleight of hand magic, and he has figured out just the coolest way to combine those two things. His act is really something.
I, like many people, have picked up a Rubik's Cube before and immediately got bored with it because I don't understand it. Why'd you do it? Why is it something that you like to do?
I like solving puzzles, and
I'm not even good at messing one of these up.
That's what I mean. It's like
yeah, I like solving puzzles, and I messed around with Rubik's Cubes a little bit in college, but then I don't know. I think there was a night when we found a Rubik's Cube, and Kane was over, and I was hanging out with Kane and my girlfriend and a couple other people, and I was like, oh, I could do a how to almost solve a Rubik's Cube class.
Right.
And I solved most of it, and I was like, the ends are really hard. And Kane was like, I bet you can't do it in 30 minutes. And my girlfriend was like, $20 says he can. And I was like, oh God, the pressure is on. And I had to sit down and just work through it. And I think I got there in 26 minutes or something. And I just made it, and I was like, holy crap, why was I under that much pressure? And then I started messing around with it, and I started watching videos online and realizing that there are people who do it in like 5 seconds. And I was like, how do I get from 25 minutes to 5 seconds? And I just practiced a lot.
It is one of those things that if
so
you
how
practice,
quick can you do it now?
I think my record is about 25 seconds.
Wow.
I usually do around like 40-ish.
So
45.
this cube that's in front of you that Dustin just messed up to the best of his ability.
Which is not very good.
You're saying you could do that? You could solve it in under a minute?
Yeah.
Please indulge me.
All right.
Make sure to do it over the table, just so.
Don't try this at home.
I love playing with them. And I've actually looked online at tutorials and stuff like that, and it just boggles my mind that like people can be that good at it. Like you said, like there are people who can do it in like 5 seconds.
Are some really weird ones too.
Yeah,
and I think Brad has just about all of them.
Yeah, Brad's got a couple crazy ones that like are like a lot of squares.
Yeah,
deep.
It's pretty.
This is a pretty normal Rubik's cube.
Yeah, this is just the standard.
It's like a computer. It's like it's crazy. Wow, that's it. It's done. It never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah,
I know
I
you
know.
can do it. I've seen you do it a million
Dude,
times.
if we were to blast you in like 200 years ago
Oh,
into
yeah.
the past, and you had the Rubik's Cube and solved it in front of, they'd burn you at the stake.
Yeah, but I mean, if we blasted me 200 years in the past and I held up a cell phone, they'd probably burn me at the stake too.
True.
That's true.
But that's
true.
technology. This is just puzzle solving.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's smoke and mirrors, people. Smoke and mirrors.
Before we get done here,
I've got two.
okay, I'm probably one of the ones I was going to throw out.
I'm
there
sure.
anyways, yeah.
How much coffee did you drink today?
Oh God. Well, I had to come in early today because we have a pretty strict policy on not letting people be in the warehouse alone operating machinery. And,
It's a good policy.
Yeah, it's great. No one gets hurt.
Getting sucked
And
into
our,
the machine. Oh, no!
Yeah, one of our grinders, Adam, we had to get him in early to grind. So I came in at about 5:15 this morning to unlock the door and be here while Adam's working the grinder, so that if anything goes wrong, there's someone else there. Geez, this is probably like my 7th cup.
No, yeah. Nice. It is. We have switched over to Valhalla though. Because he brewed up some for me too. So
nice.
I wanted to have a little bit of.
You hit
Valhalla.
that point in the day where it's just like I've had 4 cups of Death Wish. I think I should maybe just tone it back
I had
a little.
like 6, and it just became a concern about just the state of my stomach in general when you just,
Yeah.
sleep deprivation, a lot of coffee. I don't put cream in my coffee or
Nope.
sugar or anything.
Nope.
It's just black. So
Nope.
That's
a
it.
long day of that, I just
I don't mind black coffee. I like coffee black, especially when it's like I want to taste what the coffee
Correct.
tastes like.
Yeah.
I don't mind adding some stuff in every now and then though. But
You do like your Death Proof.
yeah, that's pretty much as
Yeah.
fancy as I get. But little stevia.
Yeah.
It's always good just to like round out some of the bitterness.
Shout out to Stevia.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
You love that stuff.
I do. I'm just waiting for the day that like it causes cancer. And
Yeah.
I'm like, shit.
You're all gonna die.
You're gonna find out because I'm gonna get it. That's how they're gonna find out.
yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Second question, which I'm sure was the question that you were going to ask.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one, Brad, Death Wish or Valhalla Java?
That's a hard question, Dustin. In terms of just what I prefer to drink,
Yeah.
Valhalla Java.
Oh, no
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I drink more Death Wish because we roast a lot more.
Right.
And it's like, it's impossible to walk through the warehouse without like practically tripping over a bunch of Death Wish. So
Yeah.
it's really easy to just grind up and make Death Wish, and the caffeine's there and the flavor's there, and I love the stuff. But when I'm at home, like on the weekend, or I have a day off and I just want to just drink coffee, I almost always make Valhalla.
No shit.
Yeah.
Do you like any of the flavored coffees that we do, or are you not a fan of flavored coffee?
I've never been a fan of flavored coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in general, it's just not my thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to not be my thing because I know how they usually flavor things, which is awfully.
You're right.
But we do it right here, so I don't mind it every now and then. I like the pumpkin spice, but flavored coffees kind of get old to me really quick, where it's like, you're not actually tasting pumpkin. You know?
Yeah, I'm a weird guy. I don't like flavored beers. I don't know.
Flavored beers.
I drink my whiskey straight.
Yeah,
you know, like,
I'm
it's
the
the way to
same
do
way.
it.
I mean, I think I've said this story before that when I was younger and I started drinking coffee, it was cappuccinos, like because that's what my mom liked. So I would drink, like literally go to the like the corner store and get it out of the bag that comes out of that drips out of the machine, like the most disgusting sugary crap ever.
The gas station stuff.
Yeah,
it's not even cappuccino.
That stuff would like make your
powdered
mouth
sugar.
so like sticky.
Yeah.
Your lips would get sticky, and your hands would get sticky.
Yep.
But since I've grown up from that, and now I drink, I like black coffee. I'm the same way. I don't mind our flavored coffees, and when they come out, I enjoy. Like when we get the new batch, like I love like grinding up that first batch of beans and trying it out. But it's not the thing I'm gonna grab for.
Right.
But it's interesting that you say Valhalla. You're one of the very few, if not the only one, who said that on the show. I really can't think of another employee that immediately went to
I
Valhalla.
love the flavor. I love the flavor so much.
It
awesome.
does have quite a depth of flavor.
Yeah, it's really delicious.
It's a more varietist blend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It's a little bit more bitter.
Yeah, I'd never
earthy.
actually had it before I started working here either, because it was just so easy to get Death Wish. I'd stop at Coffee Traders, get a cup of Death Wish, buy bags of Death Wish once in a while, and then
What's
when
your favorite way to brew it?
I don't really know. I found that I get the best Death Wish flavor. At home, I have a hand grinder that Jeff gave me a while ago, and I found just the right fine grind for an AeroPress. And I had been trying different things, and I watched the video that you guys made about when the AeroPress champion taught you how to do it.
Yeah.
With like the inverted method.
Yeah.
And use the suction to just keep it. And I started doing that. And I think my favorite cups of Death Wish specifically are when I make them that way. But the Chemex has really grown on me.
Yeah.
Plus, it's fun to do it.
Yeah, dude, the Brads have recently acquired a Chemex that was left in the sink too long, so we washed it and decided it's ours. And so we've been Chemexing coffee for the last week or two nonstop, and it's just delicious. It's really hard to make a bad cup of Chemex.
It is
coffee.
true. It is true.
But you know what I like about brewing coffee is that it's so fickle. One type of coffee might be magical in a Chemex, but it also you might get a variety of coffee that might actually taste better in drip, which is weird.
It's true.
For example, our rum ball coffee, I almost put everything through a Chemex because I feel like that is the best way to taste anything, to see if there's any weird notes or whatnot. And when we first made the rum ball in 2017, it was the first time I got to try it. I Chemexed it, and I wasn't impressed. I actually didn't like it at all. So when I went to my sister's and I brought the bag with me, yo, you can have this. We threw it through her drip machine, and it was like, holy shit, it's really good. It changed everything.
Crazy.
And coffee is so fickle.
Yeah.
Down to that's why we even made that video of the AeroPress, because it was so weird to have two people, both champion AeroPressers, make coffee in front of me, and it's same coffee, same amount of grammage, and it just tasted like two different coffees, and one of them was far superior. It's really strange and kind of magical. It's chemistry. Coffee is chemistry, and I think that's my favorite thing about coffee, for sure.
It's pretty rad.
But my favorite thing about Brad is that you work with me
Yeah.
all the time,
love, man.
And I don't mean just here. I mean in the bands that we've played, and the bands that we will play,
man,
and the other companies that we either take over, destroy, or whatever.
All of them. All of them.
Yeah.
Final question: when are we going to see Brad Scientist back?
Well, that that depends on a great many factors. When would you like to see the Brad Scientist back?
As soon as possible.
Perhaps the Brad Scientist can explain the Rubik's Cube a little better. Perhaps you have some ideas.
I love it.
Pretty much whenever you want to call on the Brad Scientist, he will be ready.
Excellent. Well, there'll be more Brad Scientists in the future. Brad, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us on the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. This has been a really good time.
Yeah. Cheers, brother.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.